So I know how confusing it can be when you're trying to figure out what hypothyroidism is, or maybe even what type of hypothyroidism that you have. So I'm going to shed some light here for you and talk about the 4 different types of hypothyroidism. So hypothyroidism is basically defined as an underactive thyroid. This is really, really common. I know quite a few women who have hypothyroidism, but it's usually not as simple as, okay, we have a slow thyroid, take your thyroid medication. This is why so many people still struggle with thyroid symptoms, because they're not necessarily getting a full picture. There's so many things that need to be considered. So what are the 4 types? Primary hypothyroidism is when your thyroid gland itself isn't working properly. So it's not making enough thyroid hormones. That can happen for several different reasons. Hashimoto's is actually one of the big causes of this. So Hashimoto's is when your immune system is attacking your own thyroid. So it thinks your thyroid's a foreign invader and it attacks it. So it tries to kind of like destroy the tissue. And unfortunately, this will end up leading to low thyroid hormone production. Genetics can also play a role here, where you might just be one of those where you will not make enough thyroid hormone. Even like toxins present, things like that can cause issues with thyroid hormone production. Central hypothyroidism this is also called secondary, by the way. This is when the pituitary gland and or even the hypothalamus isn't functioning optimally. So when you get a hypothyroid diagnosis, typically what they're checking is a marker called TSH. This is thyroid stimulating hormone. That is actually not a thyroid hormone. That is a signal or a hormone coming from the brain to tell your thyroid that it needs to release more hormones because they're too low in the bloodstream. So that signal is coming from the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. There's a big connection there. So if we have an issue where those glands are not giving the signal to tell your body to make more thyroid hormone, you're not going to have enough thyroid hormone down the line then. And unfortunately, that can be missed quite often, because doctors will check your TSH and the TSH might look off, but your thyroid hormones look normal, or vice versa. And maybe the doctor only checked your TSH, but it didn't look at what your thyroid hormones were doing. So that's why you have to have a full picture. You want to see all the markers, because then you can decide, okay, I might have pretty good TSH, but I don't have the thyroid hormones. Or my thyroid hormones don't look terrible, but I don't have any TSH. So what's the holdup here? What's the difference here? So that's why you need to look at a full picture. Another type of hypothyroidism is subclinical hypothyroidism. Now, this is when you actually have your thyroid hormones present. So your T3, your T4 might look totally normal in a blood test, but your TSH is starting to creep up. So we call it subclinical because it's basically meaning like the early stages of hypothyroidism. The person may or may not be showing symptoms. They usually don't have very many symptoms yet, but for whatever reason, the doctor has done a thyroid panel on you. And again, your T3 and T4 look pretty good. They don't look terrible at all, but TSH is just starting to rise up just a little bit. So it's kind of the beginning stages. So this is something to kind of keep an eye on. And the 4th type is called cellular hypothyroidism. This is probably the most common one that I work with my clients. So this basically means that your cells are not utilizing your thyroid hormones. This is a situation where you could have a completely normal thyroid panel. Your TSH might look okay, your T3 and T4 might look okay, you may or may not have any thyroid antibodies present. So the doctor says, everything looks great, thyroid panel looks good, I don't see a problem here, come back in 6 months. But you're sitting there with all these symptoms still. What that means is just because you have those thyroid hormones present and they might look normal on a blood test doesn't mean they're going inside the cells. This is super common. This is, again, the most common one that I see. Why does this happen? For a lot of different reasons. It can be from stress, inflammation, mineral imbalances, poor liver health, poor gut health. All these different things can be a big contributor as to why you might have pretty decent thyroid panel, but you have all the symptoms present, because it means your cells are not using your thyroid hormones. Super common. So that's why I utilize a lot of functional lab testing, because I will look at what's going on here with your body, you still have all these thyroid symptoms, but it looks pretty decent. That is, like I said, the most common one that I see. And this is one that is definitely overlooked. Doctors typically don't look at that because they will look at the numbers on a thyroid test and say it looks great. I don't see the problem here. So just keep that in mind, that just because you have normal thyroid markers, you might have all your thyroid symptoms still. And if you do more investigation. Be adamant with your doctor. Be an advocate for your health. Push for more answers. Make sure you, first of all, are getting a full thyroid panel, but also make sure that there's more investigation. And this is why I utilize functional lab testing. I use a lot of other testing to uncover why am I having all these thyroid symptoms still, even though my panel looks good. So just keep that in check. Get that full panel done. If you want more information on this or you have questions about this as well, definitely reach out or drop a comment below and let me know your experience with this as well.